there's a lot of things going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things going on.
I need to know about DOGE. What happened? You're on this podcast. You give us this beautiful soliloquy about the managerial class. We're moved. And like, it was so important that I was like, I need you to break it down dumb. Obviously, you're a very smart guy. So I was like,
you guys say that, break it down dumb, but I know you're into the center of it. I remember that conversation.
6th grade.
I'm a moron.
We're 6th graders.
You know, I'll tell you, if you can't explain it to a 6th grader, it means you don't understand it yourself.
That's what Epstein said.
That was good. Okay. Get ready. Okay, so.
I see you just deliver this amazing thing. It's crazy on Twitter. Everybody's like, you got it.
Then after we met, where one of the core chapters was about dismantling the administrative state. So this is my passion.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Trump announces that you and Elon are running DOGE.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
I'm like, finally, this is going to happen. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you say you hate American workers or something.
Oh, come on.
No.
He said they were too dumb.
None of the above. Oh, we need to light a fire under. We can talk a lot about
we're going
this.
to talk about that fire under our
Yeah, I wanted to know why Vivek left DOGE. I wanted to know if there was like some sort of problem there, or I wanted to hear about this.
No, we're going to talk about that in a second. But no, so what happened? And now you're leaving DOGE on the precipice of actually cleaning up the government, getting the managerial class out of there, fixing everything.
We got a good head start, by the way, in the 2 months leading up to inauguration.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the high level. There's a short story and long story. I can give you the short story for sure. And the short story, both are accurate, but the short story I can give you. The short story is...
Yeah, sure.
It evolved from a focus on where I was focused, legal, constitutional issues, legislative issues of, if you want to save a lot of money, you got to do it through legislation.
And Elon Musk was focused on just like propaganda and just like going and pointing out a bunch of random things and then saying, we're getting rid of this. And he's like, oh, wait, that's not like how the Constitution works. And they were like, oh, what? The Constitution. And then he's like, well, but what if a judge blocks you? And they were like, what? Judges? Huh. We don't have to listen to judges. Does a judge tell a commander what to do in the army? No, of course not.
If you want to look at the Supreme Court landscape for the last few years, it says a lot of these regulations are unconstitutional. That's where I had been focused. And, you know, the way it's gotten started, you could see this publicly as well, is much more of a technology and digital technology focus.
Okay, so just slow down for a second.
Yeah.
So you were going to use the Constitution to remove legislation.
Well, to remove regulations.
Sorry, regulations.
Yeah.
So you're going to use legislation to remove regulations.
And I've written about this for the last year, right? So
can you give an example of that?
Yeah, I can give a good example of that. So, you know, not to get too academic too quickly, but basically, Congress is supposed to pass the laws, and the executive branch is supposed to enforce the laws. But it turns out that most of the laws that decide what you can and can't do in your life were actually never passed by Congress. They were passed by people who were never elected to their position.
The managerial class.
The managerial class, the bureaucrats in D.C.
What's a law? Give me an example.
Yeah, so they don't call laws, they call them rules, but they have the effect of laws.
Right.
Let's say the amount of fees that fishermen have to pay to the government to have a license to be able to fish in a particular area. Let's say it is the registration requirement before a bank.
They didn't like make the rules though. They're the ones who like set the guidelines for it, sure.
Bank or an asset manager is allowed to do business. Let's say it is the procedural hoop that a biotech company has to jump through before advancing from phase 1 to phase 2 of the development process. Let's say it's the permission that a coal miner or a nuclear energy plant has to get as permission from the government before they build a new nuclear energy plant, which, by the way, has not happened in 20 years in this country because the red tape associated with doing so is so impossible.
Now, I imagine
none of those were passed by
Shut up, Andrew.
Congress.
Yes.
None of those were passed by people that we, the people, elected.
Right.
They were written into law. They call them rules, but effectively into law by unelected bureaucrats.
Right.
And the thing is, that's not a democracy, right? It might be something else, but it's not a democracy because in a democracy, if somebody makes a law that affects you, you get to vote them out. That's what it makes a law. These are more like edicts.
Yeah.
Right? Edicts come from a king
Yeah.
because you can't vote him out.
Oh.
This doesn't come from a king, but it's a new kind of edict of a bureaucracy.
So just so I can
So doing things similar to the way that a king would do it is bad, is what he's saying.
The problem.
You're not against regulation as long as it's decided by democratically elected officials.
That's my most foundational principle. It so happens in my own politics, I'm generally pretty libertarian. I tend to be against. I think most of these regulations tend not to be productive.
But sometimes you need regulation.
But the most important principle is, if you're going to have it, at least let the people who it affects to say, if it's not working out for me, I want to be able to vote you out.
Now,
I need to.
It's such a dumb thing to say. Like, I'm not against regulation. Like, this is like, while Elon Musk is like getting rid of shit in USAID, being like, I'm not against like the government funding. I'm not against the government having money, guys. I'm just against like waste, you know. So I just want to be clear here. It's so stupid.
To be able to vote, that's the most important principle.
Just so we can understand, like a lot of this probably comes from good intentions.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So these aren't like evil people necessarily.
There's evil. There's certainly malicious people in all kinds of domains of life.
Yes.
And the government is no exception to that.
Right.
And you can see some egregious examples of it. But by and large, I think what we're talking about, the regulatory state, the overwhelming majority of federal bureaucrats who I've met are good people, because most people are good people.
Yeah.
And they believe what they're doing is not for the detriment of the American people.
For the betterment of the American
But for the betterment of the American people. It's a kind of elite benevolence.
Yes.
And it's sort of skeptical of democracy, because the idea that you can just leave it to ordinary people to decide this complicated stuff. We can't leave it to ordinary people because they're going to harm themselves.
They're too dumb.
We have to make that. Exactly. And that was the whole premise of the British monarchy. It's kind of the whole premise of the modern federal bureaucracy.
But I get that. I think it's nice to not paint all these people who are creating this, what do you call it? Creating
bureaucracy, red tape, regulation, exactly.
As nefarious. Because
I think by and large, most human beings are not nefarious.
And a lot of times it's reactionary. Like I think
most human beings are good people.
Yeah, there was like a fire in New York, I'm pretty sure. And I think one of the rooms was created in like an apartment building. And I think a fireman died because they built the room but didn't ask the city for permission. So the plot or the plan that they had. So then I think what the knee-jerk reaction was to say, you cannot do anything to your apartment without permission for the whole city. I'm probably butchering this.
Yeah, but it's the kind of example you see all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I get that knee-jerk reaction because you want to protect firemen. These guys are brave. They're running into a fire.
And it's actually a great example because
I think that this would be like a great thing to use against like Elon and DOGE, to say that he like backed out because he wanted to do things based on legislation, the Constitution, through courts, and that because Elon would not do things through the legal route, and now they're even arguing against like courts having any sort of jurisdiction over the president and what Elon can do, that like this is so far from what it is that he would want. Everybody should be using this against these people hardcore.
You see that same type of incentive structure show up all the time, where someone at the FDA, they rarely will get hauled in front of some hearing if they fail to approve a drug that saves lives. But if they do approve a drug that has some unintended side effects, then they're going to be in the public eye. So their incentive is to go in one direction, not the other. Does that make them an evil person? No. Most human beings just respond to the incentives that they have while still in their heart of hearts believing that they're doing good. That's the way the federal bureaucracy
works. So this is your
works.
idea for
DOGE,
it's too big,
right? Well, and we laid it out. So there was a Wall Street Journal op-ed that we co-authored soon after it was written, focused on this constitutional approach.
Wait, no, they do get in trouble if they don't approve something that was supposed to get approved, that like did meet all the requirements and shit. He's just wrong. Like they can literally get sued.
Approach where the Supreme Court in the last couple of years came out and said, actually, most of those rules are actually unconstitutional because they didn't go through Congress. That's a big freaking deal. Happened a couple of years ago. Yeah. So we got that toolkit. And then if you want to really tackle government spending, which is a separate prong, the budget's set in Congress. There's no way around that, right? The budget is set by Congress. If you want to cut trillions of dollars, you got to go to the core of that budgeting process. So that was where my focus and our focus was. I think if you look at, now it's taken off, and I think it could be great. It's very much a digital technology first approach.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I'll let you read the executive orders that came out last week. And like I said,
we're not doing that. We got the guy right here.
I know that's what, so I'll be, I'll leave it at what I'm able to say, which is, sort of what you can see publicly, very technology focused approach, and that there's nobody better to take a technology focused centric approach than Elon. And by the way, we ended up having a pretty open discussion amongst all of us, that if my focus is on the legal, constitutional, policy-making functions, that's where my passion has been. The right way for me to realize my own vision is through elected office. And
but by the way, not the governor of Ohio or anything.
All of those except that one position. Now, announcement will be coming of some kind in the next couple of weeks.
Got it.
But I will say that even some of the regulations you brought up, right? The fireman example.
Yeah.
Most of those regs aren't just federal regulations. In fact, most of them that affect people in everyday lives are also at the level of the state.
Right.
And, I think short of being a president, when you think about driving executive action to improve people's lives, I think a governor's seat is probably the single best way to actually do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
And so that's where I land.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wouldn't you and Elon coming in as DOGE, isn't that the same as unelected bureaucrats coming in to make a bunch of rules?
So I think it's a super fair question. I've fielded that over the couple of months. The question is, it's one thing if you are undoing the actions of people who have actually affirmatively made rules versus making new rules of your own.
So you're not going to make any rules. You're just taking away rules. I think
if you're rolling back rules and actually cutting bureaucratic overgrowth, it's one thing to come in and say you're going to hire 1 million federal bureaucrats without any authorization from Congress to do it. It's another to say there are 4 million, many of whom were hired without that authorization. We need to scale that headcount back. It's another thing to say all these regulations showed up with Congress never authorizing them. It's another to say they're illicit unless they go through Congress, right? So that was the premise. It's a one-way ratchet. If there's been
and also this would go against like his philosophy as well. The fact that they just told everybody within USAID to go home. Like this definitely goes against like his entire philosophy here, because USAID is something that was like put into existence by Congress, and they're the ones who have like, you know, all say on budgeting and where money goes and shit like that. And so it's not that easy to just get rid of something just because the president signed a paper saying that he wants to get rid of it. Like you can't just say this thing no longer exists, and especially not if Elon Musk says it. But yeah, this totally goes against everything that he's saying, and it is sounding more and more like he just wanted to get out of this because this was not what he wanted to do. And JW was saying in chat, I think it was JW said that like they thought that he was annoying, but if they thought he was annoying, like he may have actually been like pushing back against a lot of the shit that they were doing. And the way that he's saying this, he sounds like he's like trying to put it in the nicest way to where he's not like stepping on their feet. He really sounds like he's like trying to like say this in a way that doesn't hurt them, but he sounds like he disagrees with what's being done by Elon Musk and DOGE right now. Everything that he's saying just more and more sounds like he really has like a full like fundamental and philosophical disagreement with how they're doing things.
The federal government overgrowth, and a lot of that was never authorized by the democratic process, then it's one thing to say, okay, then all of that, in order to comply with the Constitution, has to be rolled back. You can't make it without authorization.
But how would you apply all of this new tech? You said Elon's trying to do like tech-driven rules.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let.
Wouldn't that?
Yes. Oh, I agree with your assessment. Okay, I thought you were saying yes, there was more context to it. Okay, so yeah, so it sounds like he had like a real like issue with how they were doing this shit, and then he didn't think that like algorithms or computers should be making these decisions, and that they needed to like go through a legislative route. This is really interesting.
That be new rules?
Well, so I share with you my outlook was in what brought me to the project, and I'm super rooting for success and hopeful for success for what's going to come from a technology-driven approach.
Yeah, dude, he really sounds like he does not like this, and he's trying really hard to just say things in the nicest way possible. So yeah, when you say stuff like this, where you're like, yeah, I'm rooting for their success, and like you sound like someone who's saying like, yeah, I don't like how they're doing this, and I don't think that this is a good way to go, but I really hope that like they're still able to like achieve the goal. It's just that I couldn't be part of something like this. So, you know, if they're going to do it, like, you know, hopefully they get this done in the best way possible. But yeah, I'm not going to be part of that shit. I'm not going to have anything. Like, that's like, the more he talks, that's all I hear from him. And I don't know if I'm just like, if I've just made up my mind to where now I'm only hearing things through a certain, like, you know, seeing everything through a certain lens to where this isn't the case, and I'm just reading into everything the way that I want to hear it or the way that I want to see it. But the more he talks, the more and more this is the way that it sounds.
Besides, we had a different philosophy and approach and emphasis.
Yes.
No,
see?
Well,
see? Yes. I knew it. Yes. Difference in philosophy and approach. That's all, guys. That's all it is. I fucking knew it. Damn, Vivek is impressing me right now. He may actually be somebody with principles. I've always looked at him as somebody who was just trying to like pick up on trends and willing to just do and say anything that he could, like, so he sees like where everything's heading with MAGA, and then he just wants to like take what it is that MAGA's doing and then try to do it better than Trump, and try to say like, okay, if this is how he like manipulates them, if this is how he talks to them, if this is the way that they like the way that they think, there are some areas where he could make a bigger deal about things, and he's not. Trump isn't like focusing on those areas, and so I can come in and do the same thing as him, but kind of overtake him by focusing on those areas. And yeah, now listening to this, I am getting a totally different perspective on him. Let me listen to that last part again. Shit.
That was never authorized by the democratic process, then it's one thing to say, okay, then all of that, in order to comply with the Constitution, has to be rolled back. You can't make it without authorization.
But how would you apply all of these new tech? You said Elon's trying to do like tech-driven rules.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let.
Wouldn't that be new rules?
Well, so I shared with you my outlook was in what brought me to the project, and I'm super rooting for success and hopeful for success for what's going to come from a technology-driven approach. But that's we had a different philosophy and approach and emphasis.
Yeah. Talk that shit.
No, it's
talk that shit.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I think there's nobody better in the world to run a technology-focused approach to fix.
Yeah, see, he's doing it. He's doing it. Oh, fuck, dude. Oh, shit. So yeah, earlier I was saying, like, yeah, people should be, like, focusing on this a bit more because this is what it sounds like he's saying. But now he's actually saying it. Like, now he's, like, outright saying this shit. And even fucking Andrew's dumbass is picking up on it. So yeah, this is, I think this is something that a lot more people should be pointing out because there's a lot of people within MAGA who, like, really respect Vivek and would respect his opinion here and would care that he thinks that something bad is going on. And that he doesn't agree with this process. I think that this is something that they should definitely be talking about. All the news organizations, Kyle Kalinske, everybody should be talking about this. But this has been out for, I think, 10 days now, something like that. So this is a little strange that nobody's even mentioning that.
The federal government than Elon. And if that's where the focus is, I'm rooting for their success. And similarly, when I'm thinking about my legal, constitutional, legislative focus in downsizing government, it's hard to argue the best way to do that isn't through actually being elected in my own right.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding what the technology-driven approach would be. Can you?
What does that mean? I mean, all I'll say is at that point,
I'm not running example, hypothetically or whatever.
No, I would say
because I truly don't know what that means.
I hear you.
I don't think he can say it without, like, downplaying it, or I don't think he can say it and downplay it. I don't think he can say it in a way that makes it sound okay. I think that's why he's, like, avoiding talking about it, and that's why he's saying, like, I'll let you read the executive order. Like, I don't think he can actually talk about it without talking about it like a horrible thing. Tomfoolery show, he'll never say something bad is going on with MAGA. Right, of course. That's what I'm saying, is that, like, he's obviously saying it to an extent, but he won't say it outright. And so the fact that, like, yeah, this is what we're getting right now says a lot. Like, the fact that this is what he's talking about, this says a lot.
I think we're probably reaching the outer bounds of what I'm able to talk about, but stay tuned. I'm rooting for success. I mean, I gave you what my outlook is because I can speak for my outlook.
Yeah. So before you guys started,
I think there's an opportunity. Is there an opportunity to make things more efficient using digital technology? I believe there is.
Damn, dude. Do I think there's a way to make things more efficient with technology? I think there is. But obviously not in government, because you need people who are actual legislators to be making those decisions. You need people who are, like, actually looking at things from a human perspective and trying to do, like, what's right, what's ethical, what is like based on the law, what's based on the Constitution. And so, yeah, to just have, like, some algorithm deciding what does or doesn't go is kind of fucking insane. And yeah, I think that's what he's saying. I think that that's what he's talking about, and that's his issue here. This is actually pretty big. Pizza is the motivation right now. Yeah, I don't know why Vivek wasn't talking more about pizza. Says Elon Musk boots Ramaswamy out of DOGE. Everyone wants him out. Musk pulls the trigger. From the Economic Times. Here's why Vivek Ramaswamy ditched DOGE, and it has got... Vivek Ramaswamy has stepped down from his role as the co-chair of the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which he was set to lead alongside Tesla CEO Elon Musk, pretty recently, reported Independent. According to Independent, the departure of Vivek Ramaswamy was eventually confirmed shortly after the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump, which is being attributed to deep philosophical differences regarding the direction and function of DOGE. When was this written? January 23rd. Huh. Okay. Vivek Ramaswamy had initially been enthusiastic about the mission of DOGE to streamline all sorts of, there's another typo right there, to streamline all sorts of government operations and thus reduce federal spending through budget cuts and mass firing. However, severe tensions arose between Vivek Ramaswamy and Tesla CEO Elon Musk over their differing approaches. While Vivek Ramaswamy advocated for dismantling the administrative state using existing laws and reducing the federal workforce, at the same time, Elon Musk focused on leveraging technology and data mining to achieve similar goals, asserted Independent. The clash of visions ultimately led to the exit of Vivek Ramaswamy, as well as several speculations arose. This is written so weird. As well as several speculations arose about his political ambitions, specifically a potential gubernatorial run in the state of Ohio. In spite of publicly maintaining a good relationship with Tesla CEO Elon Musk, several insiders reported that the recent comments of Vivek Ramaswamy on American culture and immigration issues had strained his standing with some U.S. President Donald Trump allies, noted Independent. Vivek Ramaswamy stepped down from his role. The departure of Vivek was eventually confirmed. Wait, this is, what the fuck? We've read the Economic Times a couple of times before. It does say English edition. Oh shit. So yeah, so this is just written in a bunch of different languages. Okay. No wonder it's so shit. AI is running the news. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know about that one. January 28th, Vivek Ramaswamy addresses sudden exit from DOGE. I think that's incorrect. Hey, JW, can you send me what you read or where you got that from? Vivek Ramaswamy says he wasn't fired from the Department of Government Efficiency or DOGE, a new federal advisory group. He was tapped to co-lead with Elon Musk, and that he left on his own volition after a mutual discussion with the controversial billionaire.
Bully is the weakest person, and they're bullies. Hamas is bullies. The weakest people are bullies.
Okay.
I think the courts.
President Donald Trump announced months ago that Ramaswamy would co-chair the group only for the Ohio-based biotech entrepreneur who had also sought the 2024 GOP nomination for president to exit mere hours after Trump's inauguration. When asked Monday by Fox anchor Jesse Waters if Musk had fired him from DOGE, which purportedly aims to slash unnecessary government spending, Ramaswamy claimed he left to pursue elected office soon and admittedly denied being ousted. I think that's incorrect, he told Waters, but what I would say is we had different and complementary approaches. If you had complementary approaches, that means that you would be fine working together. I focused more on a constitutional law legislative-based approach. He focused more on a technology approach, which is the future approach. No better person to lead that technology digital approach than Elon Musk, Ramaswamy continued. But when you're talking about a constitutional revival, it's not just done through the federal government. It's done through federalism, where states also lead the way. Yeah, see? He wants to do things through a legislative approach, and he is not happy with this process. He said he'd expand on the subject very shortly, suggesting he'll continue to discuss his DOGE exit positively while pursuing office. He has reportedly been eyeing a run for governor in Ohio earlier this month. Trump reportedly nudged him to succeed Vice President J.D. Vance in the U.S. Senate. With recent reports that Ramaswamy had irked Musk in the lead-up to the departure from DOGE. However, Waters once again asked if he was fired. No, we had a mutual discussion, Ramaswamy replied, and I think that I wish him well and we're on the same page where divide and conquer. It's saving the country. It's not a one-man show from top down or bottoms up. It's all of the above. That's what I'm in for. Ramaswamy first signaled plans to run for elected office the day he exited DOGE, which a spokesperson said at the time requires him to remain outside of DOGE. Ramaswamy endorsed Trump after spending because if that was the case, if it was that he was just running for office, but that he couldn't run for office if he was inside of DOGE, he would just say that. He would just say that, and that's it. He wouldn't keep doing this whole like, oh, well, there's the philosophical difference, and he's more about the technology, and I'm more about the legislative. Like, he wouldn't keep doing that. He would just say outright, I have to leave because I need to be able to run for office, and I can't do that with while in DOGE. That's all he would say. He would just say that. But the fact that he keeps saying this other stuff, that the run for office has nothing to do with it. And there's absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be able to run for office while working within DOGE. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do both, unless it's like a time constraint thing. But again, even if it was a time constraint thing, he would just say that it was about his run for office, and he would not keep talking about the philosophical differences. Ramaswamy first signaled plans to run for elected office the day he exited DOGE, which a spokesperson said at the time requires him to remain outside of DOGE. Ramaswamy endorsed Trump after suspending his own campaign last year, but drew conservative ire after being tapped for DOGE by arguing tech companies often hire foreign-born engineers because U.S. culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence. Is this the conservative ire, or is that what he said? Because he was in favor of like the H-1B visas, so why would he? There's no way that he would say both, that he likes H-1B visas and that he thinks we should get more, but then also say something like this. There's no way he could say those two things. Vivek Ramaswamy read on American mediocrity sparks conservative immigration skirmish. Ramaswamy got quite a strong reaction from conservatives when he tried to explain hiring trends across the tech sector in a culturally charged social media post on Thursday. In an extended post on X, okay, where is it? So this is his post on X. It says, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Why did he call it the C word? That was fucking lame. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s, and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. Oh, so is he calling out like our education system or something like that? A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Meat Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. This is not like, these are different things. These are different things. This is like him saying, like, people who are going to celebrate LeBron James more than they celebrate Albert Einstein are not going to produce, like, they're different things. Albert Einstein is somebody who will go down in history and will be mentioned throughout, like, the rest of time and eternity. And I mean, it's probably true that he probably didn't make as much as LeBron James, even if you, like, adjust for the times. But that has nothing to do with like celebration. That has nothing to do with like popularity. That has nothing to do with like how many Twitter likes they get or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that these industries just bring in different amounts of money, and so they're going to be able to pay different pay rates. Ramaswamy endorsed Trump after suspending his own campaign last year, but drew conservative ire after being tapped for DOGE, arguing tech companies often hire foreign-born engineers because U.S. culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence. Okay, so I get it now. He's saying we're not hiring U.S. workers because they're mediocre. We're hiring others because they aren't mediocre. Earlier, I thought that they were saying they don't value intellect, and that's why they're going and getting people from other countries where they're mediocre. That's what I read from this before, so that's why this is so confusing for me. We'll have an announcement soon, Ramaswamy told Waters on Monday. Let's see. Trump forced Vivek Ramaswamy out of DOGE for being too irritating, according to TNR. Turns out Vivek Ramaswamy is too annoying even for Donald Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy's time as the potential co-chair of the not yet real Department of Government Efficiency appears to be coming to an end. The biotech executive has reportedly been clashing with rank and file of the cost-cutting the cost-cutting department, CBS, reported Sunday, just hours before Donald Trump's inauguration, reported Jennifer Jacobs noted that Ramaswamy is being encouraged to exit the agency. The other things that kept quoting it as though they weren't sure whether or not he left or whether he got fired, they all said that this came after the inauguration. But this one saying this was announced before the inauguration, that they were trying to get him to quit. Vivek has worn out his welcome, one person close to Trump told CBS. People around the other co-chair of the department, world's richest man, and major Trump donor Elon Musk have expressed frustration with Ramaswamy's lack of involvement in the massive undertaking, despite the fact that both appointees spent considerable time at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort during the transition. The pair have reportedly not worked together for a while. Ramaswamy had no comment for the network. Last week, Trump personally implored Ramaswamy to consider taking Ohio's Senate seat, recently vacated by President-elect J.D. Vance, if it was offered to him by Governor Mike DeWine. Ramaswamy had publicly backed out of the race to replace Vance in November after Trump announced him as a potential DOGE co-chair. Ramaswamy seemingly changed his mind over the last week, however, meeting with DeWine to discuss the appointment. That would be pretty big if he did get J.D. Vance's seat. But Ramaswamy didn't get the job. Instead, the gig went to Ohio Lieutenant Governor John Husted. Moments before DeWine's announcement, an anonymous source close to Ramaswamy told Reuters that the biotech executive is planning to launch a run to replace a term-limited DeWine as Ohio's governor in 2026. Oh, shit. So because DeWine didn't back him for Senate, now he's going after DeWine's seat? A move that would further solidify his exit out of Trump's inner circle. Ramaswamy is expected to formally announce the bid by the end of the month, according to Fox News. Still, Ramaswamy isn't totally on the outs. The multi-billionaire was spotted on Monday morning, arriving at the Capitol ahead of Trump's inauguration. That's a little wild because, yeah, it sounds like he is actually having real, hardcore philosophical differences with Trump and with Musk, and he doesn't like the more authoritarian and dictatorial style that they're using to try to get things done. He wants things to be done through our legislative branch and done in the processes that have been set up for us through the Constitution. He does not like this, just bulldoze your way through sort of mentality. He wants things to be done the right way. And so when he left, it seems like Trump got really annoyed with him. Elon Musk got really annoyed with him. And now he is on the outs with them and even going after a MAGA type person in